First of all, I'd just like to thank Linda for inviting me, because it is like coming home. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at Aldeburgh Poetry Festival, and Clive James was reading there. And he sort of talked about how poets hate each other and would knife each other in the back, given the chance. And I think that's absolutely not true. And Poets and Players is one example of its not being true. And there is a kind of strange family of poets, and Jeff Wainwright's here, who taught me rather longer ago than we probably want to admit, and was a huge inspiration to me, and so that's very nice. And Paul Mars, equally a good friend and inspiration. So I'm going to start with a poem that's kind of about identity, in sort of weirdly. Where I teach at Liverpool John Moores, the MAs at the moment are having to make websites for themselves, and there's been lots of discussion about their own writing identity, and it's easier for some people than others. And for me, I was sort of thinking about it, and this poem is sort of a bit about how I perceive my writing identity, I suppose, or my identity. And it's called Scott Walker. You know he won't speak, is famous for not speaking, is the fucking Greta Garbo of pop. Yet he's here, sitting at a table in the festival hall, wearing black, of course, wearing black. You remember the long, thin legs, 1967, Wigan ABC, first house. You were 14, brown skinny rib jumper and hipster skirt, with Glynis and Lynn, who screamed too. He's reading. You try not to stare. What's he reading? Some existential classic. It's no good. You can't see. Take your latte to the nearest seat. No one else is looking at his dark glasses. I've always adored your work. Not strictly true. Even real musicians had trouble with tilt. I still fancy you after 34 years. Who'd want to remember they'd been around so long? I blame you for the men I've fallen in love with. Him and reading Frenchman's Creek. That pirate slipping into the secret bit of water, her ladyship waiting, dressed as a boy, standing beside him, taking the ship's wheel for a while in open seas. The rest of her life spent pretending, tides coming in and out, the cove empty. Scott stands up, taller and leaner than anyone. He puts on his long leather coat, tucks his book into the pocket, title next to his body. You stir your coffee like you haven't noticed, chip some varnish off your nails, hum a line or two from Jackie. It didn't happen, but I sometimes think it did, really. I discovered that that a frock that I'd had in the 70s kept cropping up in things that I was writing. And it was an Ozzy Clarke dress. And not unlike this, actually, tragically, I suppose. And so I thought I'd give it a poem of its own. And some of you who have been around the Northwest a long time or know about Ozzy Clarke know that he lived in Liverpool, and then he lived in Warrington. He went to Warrington. There was an art school in Warrington, well, kind of technical college in Warrington. So there are bits of Warrington in this as well, because I'm from Newton-y-Willows, really. And it's called Mr. Clarke, You and Percy, from the painting by David Hockney. Mr. and Mrs. Clarke and Percy. Show him the dress you've kept, perfectly cut crepe falling to your ankles. Point out the wax stains from purple candles burning in a 70s bedsit. He will remember, perhaps, drawing an easy sketch, giving it to Celia. You stroke the cat's fur, explain how you fell in love. He would have too, with the art student, his collection of Judy Garland records. Neither of you will recall the northern town, the rotten egg smell of the gasworks lit up at night into a fairyland, or the flecks of soap floating in air and the brewery's yeasty scent like Heinz spaghetti cooking. Ozzy has forgotten the taunts of boys chasing him down to the Mersey, remembers the first one he followed into the toilets, maybe the same night you threw away the ring, watching it for an instant in the streetlight. 4 pearl buttons stay undone, black lace edges the bodice, and the colour is fading to almost green. He draws dresses on scraps of paper, while a white cat purrs as you wear black crepe for the very last time. Or maybe not.